Live with studios in Midland and Odessa, you're watching CBS7 First Alert News at 9 on the CW West Texas.
So this will protect and preserve from that ever happening again and moving water to a different system.
The City of Midland approved a plan today that could prevent future sewage leaks from happening at the I-20 Nature Preserve. But preserve staff fear that this project could do more harm than good. We have the more details on this story coming up in your environmental news on CBS7 News at 9. Thanks for joining us for CBS7 News on the CW, and thanks for joining us live on the CBS7 YouTube. I'm Lauren Munt, and we start tonight across Texas.
It will reduce the number of trucks on those roads. I mean, roughly 50% of the truck traffic out there today is related to the delivery of sand, and then what'll happen is once you remove those big trucks from the road, and that transportation, what's going to happen is it'll make the roadway safer.
After 5 years of design, Atlas Energy is changing how to deliver sand in the Permian Basin. The energy company is introducing the Dune Express, which is a 42-mile conveyor belt that will help move sand across the Permian Basin. The use of the conveyor belt technology is common in the mining industry, whether for iron or other minerals such as sand. But the conveyor belt that is being built in Kermit is the first of its kind here in West Texas. The belt will span 42 miles, starting in Kermit, going into New Mexico. And it doesn't follow any current road. Once the belt is in full operation, it will be able to transport 13 million tons of sand a year.
Typically, sand is moved over the public roadways and moved onto the well sites. So when we started looking at this different technology, what we were really trying to do is really one is to improve the way sand is delivered. The second thing is to improve the quality of life for the folks that live out there in the Permian Basin. Is there a better way to do this? And so, removing trucks from the road was something that was the goal as well.
With the conveyor belt, there will also be less big trucks on the road, potentially making them safer to drive on. CBS7 received a letter from the Texas Commission on jail standards. It said that the Midland County Jail was out of compliance with some state codes, twice in 2023 for 3 different technical deficiencies. Today, Sheriff David Kreiner is clarifying those incidents. According to Sheriff Kreiner, the Jail Commission inspected Midland County in March of 2023 and found some jailers had not completed training. And there was also not proper lodging for restraint chair checks. When the jail was inspected in June, the commission found Midland County in compliance. Then in October, Midland County was inspected again and found that the recreational log was not properly filled out. But according to Sheriff Kreiner, when inmates were interviewed, the commission found they were getting recreation time as required. The sheriff says that when Midland County was re-inspected, they were once again in compliance. To see his full statement, you can go to our website, cbs7.com. And we're tracking crime now. The Andrews Police Department is asking for help identifying this man. According to the police, they stole copper wire during the holidays. If you recognize the suspect, contact the Andrews Police Department. And today, volunteer fire departments in Ector County were awarded with grants that will help them purchase new equipment. The key word in this department is volunteer. And most of the volunteers have full-time jobs relying on money from the county to continue to respond. Because of the position that they're in, grants like these are a big deal for them. These funds come from the American Rescue Plan Act, and the county will allocate them to the West Odessa Volunteer Fire Department and the South Ector County Volunteer Fire Department. The WOVFD has seen improvements in response time. They used to take 20 to 25 minutes to respond, but they've been able to reduce that time to just 5 minutes this year. With the new equipment it will only get better.
We have members that are already there nearby, just so we can have a quick, timely response. Because ultimately fire is extremely destructive, and you want to get there as quick as you can and get it contained as quick as you can to preserve life and property, ultimately, is our main goal.
The $1.9 million that they were awarded will go towards new equipment, gear, nozzles, thermal imaging equipment, and more. And the Midland City Council also approved a donation to the Midland Fire Department of over $130,000. That money will be used in part to buy 7 chest compression systems for first responders in Midland. The devices provide CPR automatically to help improve effectiveness and keep emergency responders safe while driving.
It's safer because now we don't have somebody standing up trying to do CPR and an ambulance driving quickly back to the hospital. And it just gives that extra set of hands so the crews in the back of the ambulance can accomplish the goal.
There are already 3 automatic chest compression systems in use by the Midland Fire Department and EMS. And it's time to take a look at your weather forecast with Chief Meteorologist Tom Teefer-Teller. Tom, we were just talking about how cold it has gotten outside.
It is rather chilly out there. If you're out and about, you know it across the area. And it looks like things are going to get even colder in the next week. Taking a look outside right now, current temperatures on our live iCam in Midland showing the tall city skyline, where we're seeing temperatures at 41 degrees there, 40 out at the Middle National Air and Spaceport, and 41 over towards Odessa. But look at this, already into the 30s around the Big Spring area and right at freezing. And in Hobbs, some 30s down into the mountain areas too at the present time as the winds have calmed down quite a bit. Still a little gusty here on the eastern slopes of the Guadalupe Mountains up into the Carlsbad area. Gust up to 28 miles an hour. Things are going to be tranquil for the middle part of the week, but more wind is on the way. Things stir up on Thursday and especially into Friday with a cold front. That's going to bring some of the coldest air of the season into our forecast late in the weekend.
Today, the Midland City Council approved a $4 million contract to place a lift station on the northwest edge of the I-20 preserve. City officials say that this project is aimed at keeping the preserve safe, but also preventing any future mishaps. Preserve leadership dealt with sewage leaks between 2019 and 2022. The city worked to mitigate those issues and spent $350,000 cleaning up the main link in 2022. But it still polluted the area and caused concern about the main source on the preserve.
The reality of it is that it's a mechanical pump lift station. And if it is to leak again, if it is to break again, it is on the preserve, natural preserve. It will affect the ecosystem. It will affect the habitat.
City officials say that this system provides relief to the city's large sewer lines along Wall Street. Previous blowouts occurred because of a blockage. That lift station will provide an alternate route. And today, the Midland City Council also approved that it is moving ahead with renovations to Beale Park. They're adopting a financial plan for the improvements. It'll cost $36 million, with the city paying about $26 million of that, and private donations funding the other $10 million. The goal is to make it a one-stop destination for soccer families.
In the bigger picture, we also want to be able to bring tournaments and to bring those soccer teams from around West Texas and even beyond back to Midland to have soccer tournaments and that type of thing in this facility. So we have a lot of soccer facilities spread all over town, but we wanted to develop a plan where we have one location.
It will take several years for those renovations to be complete. And Kellis Turner Park will soon see some upgrades after Ector County Commissioners Court approved funding towards their project. The commissioners allocated $238,000 towards upgrades like synthetic turf, a playground, benches, swings, and more. It's a big win for members of the community and for kids at Buddy West Elementary. Some of the fourth graders at Buddy West helped choose the new features of the park.
So the Commissioners Court has ordered the playground equipment. So we will be getting playground equipment back at Kellis Turner Park. So the community has access to actual playground equipment in a park instead of just a park.
The Commissioners Court also approved adding more security by adding sheriffs to the annex near the park, making the school and the park a lot safer. And in your health headlines, Midland's Gift of Hope is now offering a program with the goal to enrich the lives of cancer survivors after treatment. That's thanks to a Time to Heal Cancer Foundation in Omaha, Nebraska. Gifts of Hope in Midland is now eligible to offer a program called Survivorship 101. The free 9-week program is designed to help any cancer type survivor regain their physical, emotional, and spiritual health. The executive director of Gifts of Hope, Clint Dixon, says he's excited to see the program grow with its clients.
I hope that in the years to come, we can take this program into the rural areas. That has been one of my goals since I started, was to take our support group programs into rural communities so that people, when they go back home, have resources to go to. And this, to me, seems like a no-brainer as far as a quality program that we could take into those communities.
The program will happen every Tuesday from 4 to 5:30, starting on January 28th at Gifts of Hope in Midland. And across the nation, according to a statement from Walter Reed National Military Medical Center, Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin has prostate cancer. The hospital says Lloyd's cancer was diagnosed in early December, and he underwent surgery on December 22nd. His recovery is described as uneventful, and he went home the next day. Then on January 1st, Austin was admitted again due to a urinary tract infection, which was a complication of the surgery. The Pentagon did not alert the public, and even President Joe Biden and his cabinet were not aware that Austin was hospitalized until he'd been there for 3 days. The hospital says he never lost consciousness or underwent general anesthesia during his general stay. Today, Representative August Pfluger and other members of the Mach 1 caucus sent a letter to President Joe Biden calling for Secretary Austin's resignation. It read in part, quote, "We believe Secretary Austin's blatant violation of the Pentagon's principles of information and serious lapse in judgment warrants his immediate resignation, as well as the resignation of any staff involved in covering up his hospitalization. If he does not resign, he should be immediately dismissed." You can read more about this on our website, CBS7.com. And speaking of CBS7.com, you're looking at today's top headlines shown here in real time with real viewers. You can see all these stories and more just by downloading our app or visiting our website. Again, that's CBS7.com. And still ahead, we have the continuing coverage on an NTSB investigation into the near catastrophic incident on Alaska Airlines 737 MAX 9. That's next on CBS7 News at 9. And don't forget, CBS7 First Alert will be broadcasting live from the Midland County Horseshoe tomorrow afternoon. We'll be live for our 5 and 6 o'clock newscasts. You won't want to miss it. Tonight, Boeing's CEO is acknowledging that the near catastrophic incident on board an Alaska Airlines flight was the company's mistake and promised 100% transparency every step of the way. CBS's Chris Van Cleve has new details tonight about the effort to return the 737 MAX 9 planes to the skies.
It appears it's all about the bolts. Investigators are increasingly focused on the 4 powerful bolts that should have kept the door panel from flying off this 737 MAX 9. They're unaccounted for.
We have not yet determined if they existed there.
So if the bolts are there, the door doesn't move up, which means it doesn't fly off.
Yes, if the bolts are there, it prevents the door from translating upwards and disengaging from the stop fittings.
And flying off the plane.
And flying off the plane.
Okay. Sometimes called a door plug, the panel replaces an optional emergency exit. It's visible from the exterior, but inside appears as a normal cabin window. Both Alaska and United are finding some with loose bolts on their now grounded planes. United saying it believes it's an installation issue. If you can't trust the manufacturer to tighten those bolts, can you trust them to tighten all the other bolts in the airplane?
Right now, we are focused on the evidence. We deal only with facts, and we're going to have to look at this aircraft. We will go broader if we need to.
CBS News has learned investigators want to know if Boeing has received damaged door plugs from its supplier. A month ago, a federal complaint by former employees of that supplier, Spirit AeroSystems, alleged the company's products frequently contained defects.
How comfortable would you be getting on a 737 MAX today?
I flew on 2 737 MAXs to get from Washington, D.C. to California yesterday.
Billy Nolan is the former acting FAA administrator.
Is there a sufficient amount of FAA oversight of Boeing and its suppliers today?
I would argue that there is, but I would say as we go through this, is there something additional? So this is the right case to ask ourselves these questions. What have we missed and what else should we be doing?
Chris Van Cleve, CBS News, Portland.
West Texas is going to be looking at some more cold weather. In fact, Arctic chill is going to be in our forecast coming up early next week. We're going to talk about that coming up next.
Now, from the CBS7 First Alert Weather Center, here's Chief Meteorologist Tom Tiefertiller.
Well, let's go ahead and take a look at the weather makers right now as we're kind of in between storm systems, saying goodbye to one that brought all that mess of dust and wind yesterday. Well, that has moved off towards the East Coast where it spawned a lot of tornadoes, especially here from the Carolinas south into Florida. A lot of wind damage being reported. Now that storm's going to bring some snows across portions of New York and the northeast U.S. back across West Texas again. This ridge of high pressure keeping things relatively quiet, but it's a fast moving flow. So these storm systems are moving across rather quick. And there's another one on its heels that's going to bring in the wind in a big way in our forecast once again, starting on Thursday, continuing into Friday, and another cold front too. Now, as we take a look at what's going on with the state view of the satellite and radar, not a lot going on across the state. A few clouds here across portions of South Texas. Things have been cold today, being held down a little bit around Amarillo because of the snowpack in and around the Texas Panhandle, keeping temperatures rather chilly there. We topped out only at 50 degrees today, as did the Dallas-Fort Worth area. But you can see some of that cooler air making its way all the way down into portions of the Houston area, San Antonio, and far west Texas too, getting in on the action too. Now the futurecast winds, we are going to see those relatively quiet, except maybe into the mountain areas overnight tonight, but then they start stirring up once again for tomorrow afternoon here across the Trans-Pecos. But the real winds though are starting to roll in as we move in towards Thursday, starting in the mountain areas first off, and then starting to get a little gusty by about 12 noon across the Trans-Pecos and into parts of the Permian Basin too. And then we'll see even more wind in our forecast later on in the evening hours into the early part of the overnight. On Friday, we could see wind gusts again in excess of 50 miles an hour in some locations. So we do have high wind watches already up across portions of Eddy County, New Mexico, the Guadalupes, the Davis Mountains, Marfa Plateau, down towards the Big Bend area. In those mountains, we could see wind gusts in excess of 55 miles an hour. So for the rest of tonight, here's what we are going to be looking at. Again, things will be rather cold out there. Not a lot of wind across the area for tomorrow, except a little gusty around the mountain areas, it looks like, with the Permian Basin, about 62, pretty quiet times. And then we'll see that next front, a lot of wind stir up Thursday into Friday as that front rolls in. And that's going to kind of open the door to Canada and cold Arctic air. It's going to start to ooze down into portions of the Texas Panhandle. Then into West Texas on Sunday into Monday, dropping temperatures all the way down into the mid-teens coming up by Monday morning. So again, now is the time to winterize your house, your car. Get ready for this, as it's going to be some of the coldest air we've seen this winter season so far.
Still ahead, 4 astronauts are on a mission to Mars without leaving the state of Texas. A look at the year-long mission next on CBS7 News at 9. You've probably heard about NASA's plans to send a crewed mission to Mars in the decades ahead. But you may not know that a Mars mission is already underway right here in Texas. CBS's Bradley Blackburn reports on the crew now in the middle of a very important experiment.
The Johnson Space Center in Texas, inside a large hangar, 4 volunteers are living like they're on another planet. The mission, called Chapea-1, began last July, a 378-day test of what it will be like when astronauts are on Mars.
At times, we very much feel like we're away, in some distant place.
Some people think that this is crazy, but for me, I've always wanted to make a contribution to spaceflight.
NASA 3D printed a Martian habitat and even mimicked the red soil. They're testing how to live with extremely limited resources 100 million miles away. Grace Douglas is running the mission back on Earth.
We might also have to send a lot of the supplies ahead of the crew, and in this case, we might not be able to send preferences for certain things like food.
Even though the crew members are right here in Houston, communicating with them is a challenge. There's up to a 22-minute delay to send signals each way, just like it would be if they were actually on Mars.
There's a bandwidth limitation as well.
Crew members recorded responses to our written questions, but they mostly email with their loved ones and with Mission Control.
The crew is actually really innovative and adaptive and troubleshoots really rapidly in times where we can't get an answer back from Mission Control very quickly.
With surveys and sensors, NASA is monitoring their physical and mental health too. There's an emotional toll of isolation, and they are eager to get home.
Definitely looking forward to a jump in the ocean and then drying in the sun.
I miss my partner, I miss my family, I miss my friends, and I'm so looking forward to seeing them.
A crew making a real sacrifice on Earth so man can be ready for Mars. Bradley Blackburn, CBS News at the Johnson Space Center.
This is the first of 3 planned simulation missions. NASA hopes to send astronauts to Mars sometime in the 2030s. And still ahead, the chilly temperatures didn't stop Midland ISD students from having a great first day of the spring semester. We're looking at how their morning went, plus your first alert forecast here on CBS 7 News at 9. It was a chilly start for the first day of the spring semester for students in Midland ISD. Today, the feels like temperatures were in the teens this morning as buses and parents dropped off students. Schools, including right there at Alamo Junior High, opened their doors about an hour before the first bell rang to make sure that students stayed warm. Tom, it was very cold out there.
Yeah, 25 degrees. It's 25 degrees this morning.
Oh my goodness.
So again, we're going to see temperatures not quite as cold coming up tomorrow morning, but still around 32. So bundle up the kiddos. And if you want real cold weather, well, just wait. Late this weekend into the start of next week, Martin Luther King Day. Temperatures will be down into the teens first thing in the morning.
All right, bring out the big jackets. Thanks for watching CBS 7 News at 9 on the CW. We've got more news coming up on CBS 7 News at 10.